Chapter 961. Jojo. Jojo, Jojo. He tugged her small hand over and gently pulled her into his embrace, his other hand stroking her small head back and forth to soothe her. He could sense that the little fellow's body was extremely taut right now, and her entire being was in an abnormally stiff and icy state. She was trembling. What was his little fellow afraid of? This kind of little person truly made one's heart ache too much, and it made his heart ache endlessly. If it was possible, he was willing to hold the sun, moon, and universe in his hands in exchange for her simple smile. Jojo, oh Jojo, what exactly are you hiding in your heart? Why are you unwilling to confide in me? Let's not compete anymore, let's go home. Emolien picked her up and whispered next to her ear, "Darling, don't be scared. You have me if anything happens." After saying this, she abruptly glanced to the side, and a ruthless gaze landed on the nearby Do Kue. At this moment, Do Kue was in a rather wretched state. His 4 limbs were already exposing eerily white bones, and blood was still gushing out from his chest. From the looks of it, even if they carried him back to save him, he could only be reduced to a complete cripple. Very soon, the Crown Prince received a qualification tablet from Hall Master Ho and left the arena with Auber in his arms. Duan Yu and the Chow family group naturally weren't in the mood to continue watching, so they quickly ran out after them. Eldest Qin propped his chin up with one hand and tilted his head to look pensively at Omega Kotoku. "Second brother, what are you thinking about?" Omega Kotoku returned to his senses and reflexively glanced at Eldest Qin, but he didn't say anything. He just inexplicably felt a trace of oppression in his heart. A very strange emotion lingered around his chest, as if it couldn't be brushed away, but it was also very hazy in his memory. Sir Black Cat, who had been secretly observing from a dark corner, mixed into the crowd at this time and elbowed the pale-faced Mu Chantian. Mu Chantian seemed to have been frightened by Auber's ruthlessness, and she shuddered when Sir Black Cat touched her. It was as if she had been touched by something filthy, and she almost jumped up. Lord Black Cat lowered its head and wore a thick hood. Because he was shorter than the average person by at least half, as long as he did not deliberately touch the waist or legs of others, he would not attract anyone's attention. Mu Chantian turned around and nodded at him in understanding. She then bent her back and shrunk out from the back of the crowd, following Sir Black Cat as they quietly walked downstairs. "If we don't make a move now, when will we?" Lord Black Cat's mouth, which was hidden under its black hood, flashed a cold smile. It lowered its voice and said, "The young lady is in low spirits now and is defenseless. You idiot, you don't dare to make a move with such a good opportunity? If you miss today, it will be even more difficult in the future. Will I succeed?" When Mu Chantian recalled Auber's ruthless methods from before, her body involuntarily shuddered again. "Yes." Lord Black Cat licked its lips, a strange glint in its eyes. An emotion called greed bloomed in the depths of his eyes. Mu Chantian tightly grasped the soul swap curse under her sleeve and nodded fiercely. She steeled her heart and said, "Okay. I'll go now." After saying this, she clenched her fists tightly and turned around to dash madly toward the entrance of the martial arts center. When she exited, she saw His Highness the Crown Prince carrying that little B***tch to the carriage. When Mu Chantian saw that Auber's expression was a bit dazed, she immediately narrowed her cold eyes. "Auber, your good days have come to an end." Chapter 962. Quite a few people had gathered around where the carriage was parked, watching curiously. There were also several beggars sitting in the corner, filthy and in rags. They leaned against the wall and occasionally stretched out their hands to beg the people who walked past them. Emolien ignored these people and placed Auber on the carriage. She then turned around and whispered something to Duan Yu, who had run over. Qiao Zhongbang and his wife also quickly followed over, anxious to check on their daughter's condition. Anyone with a discerning eye could see that there was something wrong with their daughter's mood just now. And right at this moment, Mu Chantian arrived at the back of the carriage with a flash. Her brows twitched fiercely as she softly recited the spell terms that Sir Black Cat had taught her. The soul swap curse under her sleeve abruptly exploded into a faint black mist that swiftly shot toward Auber's location. Black Cat simply sat in a row with those beggars, openly and in high spirits as he watched a good show. What if the soul swap curse could succeed in one strike? Ha ha ha. He would secretly take away the eldest Miss Chow after the soul swap and interrogate her about the talisman art inheritance at that time. That's right. Right now, Black Cat's greatest wish was to pry that complete talisman art inheritance out of Arbor's mouth. No one would believe that a 14 to 15-year-old little girl with superb talisman arts wasn't an inheritance. Black Cat's gloomy eyes flickered as he looked at the carriage. Suddenly, a beggar beside him kicked him heavily. "What are you doing, snatching territory? Do you know first come, first served? This is my territory." The beggar who spoke was in his 50s or 60s. His oily hair was matted into knots that draped over his face and shoulders, covering the red and swollen frostbites on his old face. Frostbites covered his arms and exposed big toes. It could be seen that his daily begging in the wilderness was a miserable and ignoble existence that didn't even know where his next meal would come from. Yet he still dared to throw a tantrum like this. Black Cat had a belly full of anger but nowhere to vent it. If it weren't for the fact that he didn't want to attract attention, he would have strangled this repulsive stinky beggar to death long ago. Shrinking its body and wrapping itself under the hood, the Black Cat sat to the side. It ignored the old beggar and stared at the carriage. He was very nervous. He had to control the location of Miss Chow's soul immediately after the soul swap. He definitely couldn't let her run away. In the blink of an eye, the soul swap curse that Mu Chantian threw out had already transformed into a wisp of black light and abruptly arrived in front of Arbor. Mu Chantian's heart was beating so fast that it was practically about to leap out of her chest. Arbor's hand, which was being held by his mother, suddenly froze. He sat up straight and stared at Prince Amo, who was standing beside the carriage. A trickle of blood suddenly trickled down from the corner of her mouth. It was so sudden that Qiao Zhongbong and his wife were scared out of their wits. "Jojo!" Wei Ziqin exclaimed. "Sister!" Qiao Lin grabbed Arbor's small hand. However, Arbor seemed to have lost all her strength and abruptly fell backward. The back of her head was about to hit a corner of the small coffee table. Emo Lien's gaze contracted, and he swiftly flitted to her side and supported her small head. "Jojo! Sister! Quickly return to the residence." Qiao Zhongbong shouted in panic. "Huifeng, quickly summon old royal physician Qiao." "Yes, Your Highness." "Your Highness the Crown Prince." Mu Chantian fainted behind the carriage. "Throw it further away." Chapter 963. D** Emenet. Sir Black Cat watched as Prince Mo's two subordinates cruelly tossed Mu Chantian's unconscious body onto the run-down stall before swaggering off. He hastily and stealthily chased after them, grabbing Mu Chantian and disappearing into the crowd with a few leaps. However, he was a bit hesitant in his heart. Strange, did she succeed or fail? But if the soul swap failed, the best-case scenario would be vomiting blood and paralysis, while the worst-case scenario would be her soul dispersing and dying on the spot. It didn't look like a failure. Forget it. Let's take Mu Chantian's body away first. Perhaps eldest Miss Chow's soul was already inside Mu Chantian's body. Upon thinking of this, Sir Black Cat couldn't help but burst with joy, as if he could already see himself single-handedly controlling a rare talisman technique inheritance. Not long after he left, that old beggar whose entire body was covered in frostbites and whose head was covered in lice suddenly jumped up from the base of the wall. He looked at his hands one moment, then at his greasy hair draped over his shoulders the next moment, and he shrieked involuntarily. But when he truly heard his own hoarse drake-like voice, it was as if he had been struck by lightning, and his eyes bulged in fright. Old Sly, what's wrong with you?" The other beggars who were leaning against the wall were all startled by his sudden deranged appearance. The crowd of spectators who were concentrating on listening to the competition situation frowned one after another as they glanced at the old beggar who was jumping and shrieking in fright. Ah! That beggar looked at his hands covered in frostbites in fright, and his lips quivered as if he was having a seizure, his entire body shaking uncontrollably. He touched his hands that were covered in frostbites one moment, then reached out to cup that old face the next. His entire body was convulsing crazily from fright, and even his breathing wasn't smooth. The other beggars on the side snickered. "Old Sly, what are you doing? What are you convulsing for? Idiot! It wasn't me, it wasn't me, it wasn't me, it wasn't me. It wasn't me." The old beggar grabbed a slightly younger beggar next to him, and his lips quivered as he shrieked, "Mirror, mirror! Do you have a mirror? Mirror!" The beggar looked at him as if he was crazy. He was so angry that he gave him a kick. "Are you crazy? I am a beggar. Do you think I'm a big girl? Why would I bring a mirror with me?" This kick sent the frail old beggar to the front of a woman. He went up and wanted to hug the woman's leg. The woman was so shocked that she screamed. The husband beside the woman raised his leg and kicked him, causing him to roll back and fall to the ground with a bang. Coincidentally, there was a dog basin by the side with some water in it. He crawled over and took a closer look. He could vaguely make out what it was. Locks of hair stuck to his face as if they had been gnawed by dogs, and his face was old and ugly, covered with frostbite and wrinkles. He was so frightened that he screamed on the spot. "Ah! Ah! Ah! Ah!" The old beggar clawed at the ground and smashed it hard with his frostbite-covered hands. His eyes were filled with disbelief. "Ah!" He crawled to his feet as if he had gone mad, muttering, "Lord, Lord Black Cat, Lord Black Cat," as he ran madly to look for someone. Why was it like this? Mu Tiantian didn't know. The soul swap curse was a success. Mu Tiantian's soul had now been successfully swapped into the old beggar's body. Raise your hand in fright from the title. Chapter 964. It was a success. The soul swap curse. Mu Tiantian's soul successfully entered the old beggar's body, but this wasn't the success that Mu Tiantian wanted. This kind of successful soul swap didn't have any substantial meaning. Mu Tiantian howled like a mad woman the entire way as she searched for Sir Black Cat's figure all over the streets. Where was Sir Black Cat? He had long thought himself infallible and ran off with Arbor in tow. Since it succeeded, Sir Black Cat naturally had to find a secluded place and slowly interrogate Arbor about the origins and specific circumstances of the talisman art inheritance. Meanwhile, Mu Tiantian was running further and further away. She ran out of the bustling main street and shuttled through various small alleys like a mad woman, screaming, Sir Black Cat. Ah! Why was it like this? Her hand, her face. Would she be able to change it back? She must find Sir Black Cat, Sir. Ah, she didn't even have extravagant hopes of switching back to the Crown Princess's body now. She only wanted to switch back to her original body. She did not want to become a beggar. No. Ah! Asterisk thump. Asterisk Mu Tiantian's head seemed to have bumped into something, and it hurt. She widened her tear-filled eyes as she dazedly gazed at the empty space in front of her. There was nothing at all? Why did it feel like she had bumped into a wall just now? She shuddered her ice-cold and aged body before taking another step forward. Asterisk thump. Asterisk this time, she clearly felt the feeling of being bounced back by a wall-like barrier. Ah! Mu Tiantian shrieked as she abruptly turned around, her eyes widening in horror. Little bastard, you've got guts. You actually dared to touch my disciple-nephew's soul. An angry roar came from the void. Mu Tiantian was horrified to only see a faintly discernible projection in red clothes. She couldn't even see the person's features clearly, but the voice was extremely crisp, like a young woman's voice. Ah! Mu Tiantian shrieked as she turned around, wanting to escape, but she still crashed into the barrier with a thump. She made a gesture to fling a talisman, but then she abruptly realized that this body wasn't her body. Where did she get talismans from? She didn't have talismans. This old beggar was just an ordinary person. Previously, when she forcefully entered the old beggar's body, she directly crushed the old beggar's original soul. Now, even if she used all her strength, she still wouldn't be able to break through the transparent barrier in front of her. Was she going to die? No. She didn't want to die. She didn't want to die. She was still so young. She was only 18 years old. She still had so many years to live. She couldn't die. Sob, sob, sob. No, no. Mu Qianqian knelt down in terror and despair, kneeling in front of that red projection with a powerful aura. She repeatedly kowtowed and begged for mercy. Let me go, I beg you to let me go. I won't dare to do it again. I won't dare to do it again. She felt that the person in front of her was very powerful. It was as if he could crush her like an ant with just a stretch of his hand. Her tattered old face was covered with tears and snot, making her look extremely ugly. The projection harumphed coldly and swiftly formed several transparent hand seals. A bizarre energy instantly entered Mu Qianqian's mind. Mu Qianqian only felt as if her soul was being pinched by a giant invisible hand, and her entire body started trembling uncontrollably. Chapter 965. All of a sudden, an indistinct strip-shaped ripple appeared in the still air around them. A segment of transparent playback flashed before the two people continuously, and it passed by extremely quickly. Mu Qianqian gaped in horror as she looked at that transparent image that kept flashing. So scary! So scary! This powerful venerable one in front of her was actually able to extract memory fragments from the depths of her soul? Right now, the playback in front of that mysterious venerable one was precisely the time when she and Sir Black Cat had conspired to use the soul swap curse to harm Arba. Mu Qianqian only thought that venerable one had used a special imprint to forcibly extract her memories. She didn't know that the other party wasn't squeezing her soul to extract her memories at all. The other party had the power of time and could reverse time even if he was facing the air. She was even more unaware of what kind of fate awaited her. Right now, she could only beg the other party bitterly. Mu Qianqian was extremely terrified. She completely couldn't muster up any thoughts of resistance. She sprawled on the ground like a puddle of mud, and her lips couldn't help but tremble as she shouted, "Venerable one, venerable one, venerable one, please forgive me, venerable one. I beg you, please spare my life. I don't dare anymore, I really don't dare anymore. Venerable one, woo woo woo. Too scary." Why was there such a mysterious venerable one behind Arba who was her Ant Master? As the red projection pressed closer, a powerful oppressive force closed in on her. It was as if it wanted to crush her entire body into brittle bones. This power caused Mu Qianqian to be unable to breathe as she knelt on the ground with her mouth agape. Scoundrel! It wasn't easy for us to stabilize her soul, but it was damaged by your greed. No, I don't know anything. Venerable one, spare my life. Venerable one, spare my life. Just a projection had such a terrifying aura. Then what if the real person was standing in front of her? Mu Qianqian simply didn't dare to continue thinking. Huh? You actually dared to dream of swapping her soul. You don't have any value left. Die! The projection shouted angrily. A giant invisible hand lifted Mu Qianqian up and flung her heavily onto an ice wall that suddenly rose from the ground. Bam! Mu Qianqian felt like her body was about to split open. The most terrifying thing was that when she turned around, she actually saw her own reflection on the ice wall. Such an ugly old face, with a lock of greasy hair hanging on a face full of frostbites? Was that her? Was it her? Ah! Mu Qianqian shouted as she covered her face. However, she didn't know that her voice had long been blocked inside the 5 walls and couldn't pass through at all. Heh, you must be frightened by your own appearance. Do you want to know what your body will look like in 10, 20, 30 years? This is the result of trying to touch my martial nephew's soul remembrance. The cold voice sounded like a machine. Mu Qianqian looked at that ice wall, and to her horror, she discovered that her face was starting to narrow and thin. The wrinkles on her face became denser, her eye sockets sunk in, and the veins on the back of her hands and legs were bulging. It was as if she had aged 10 years in just a few seconds. She was getting older and older. Her voice was like that of a dying old man, and her turbid eyes were filled with terror as she repeatedly shouted, "No, no. The skin and flesh on her body instantly vanished into nothingness, and her entire body turned into a set of withered bones that fell loosely to the ground. Chapter 966. Tisk, no one can escape the catalysis of the time curse. As the cold voice fell, the illusory projection removed all the barriers in this small alley. The withered bones on the ground had already turned into fine dregs and scattered with the wind. Black cat, she muttered softly. Just as she was about to move, she seemed to be restrained by something, and her figure suddenly stopped. Damned heavenly Tao! You dare to suppress me? An invisible restraint stopped her on the spot for a moment. With a sudden collapse, she quickly broke free of the restraint and the illusory figure spread out into the distance. I'll find that whatever black cat. I'll go back after killing him. Boom! A sudden clap of thunder landed beside the illusory figure. F***CK. I've already endured your attacks on me so many times, but today I can't. Half an incense stick's time. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Several invisible chains swung onto the illusory figure's body, firmly restraining her on the spot. Must you oppose me? The woman's voice revealed a strong murderous intent. Come back quickly. You can't stay there. Your power of time will cause the space-time of this lower star domain to become unstable. A crisp voice screeched in exasperation. They touched my martial niece. I beg you, come back quickly. She's fine. She'll be fine. Who dares to touch her? Woo-woo. Damn it, stop talking nonsense. The illusory figure instantly disappeared into the air. The two beggars who had followed her poked their heads out of this small alley and looked at each other in dismay. Where's old Sly? I clearly saw him come in just now. Why isn't there anyone here? He's crazy. Forget it, don't bother with him. The Marquis of Jiyuan's estate. Emolien sat on the edge of the bed, his straight brows deeply knitted as he gazed at the slightly pale person lying on the bed. Old Imperial Physician Chow, how's the situation? The Crown Princess's pulse is stable and her body is in excellent condition. There's nothing wrong with her. Old Imperial Physician Chow also frowned and stood up. He had carefully checked the Crown Princess's pulse just now, and there was nothing wrong with her. However, the Crown Princess did not wake up. You guys can leave first. Emolien ordered indifferently. Yes. After everyone had left and closed the door, Emolien moved closer to the bed and reached out to hold Auber's wrist. An endless stream of medicinal power flowed into Auber's body. As the seconds ticked by, Emolien's forehead was covered in a layer of cold sweat. But his Jojo still did not wake up. Suddenly, as if he had sensed something, he abruptly turned his head, but before he could see clearly who was wrapped up in the black shadow, he had already seen it. A gust of wind from a finger instantly struck him and knocked him unconscious. I almost exposed myself. If the boy hadn't used up too much of his energy, she would have been exposed in front of him. He was a very strong child. The black shadow approached the bed and lifted Auber with one hand. In an instant, several silver needles appeared and accurately fell on her body. The reason why her soul was so unstable was because of that girl from before. Did Junior Sister take care of that person? A moment later, Auber's complexion slightly improved. Her eyelashes fluttered and she looked at the muslin canopy above her head in a daze. Then, as if she felt something, she turned her face to the side. The first thing she saw was Emolien, who was half lying in front of her bed. Her heart jumped. Emo, child. A faint voice sounded by her ear. Chapter 967. A familiar voice, an aura that was still familiar even after 1,000 dreams. Auber's heart shuddered, and she abruptly turned half of her small face to look at that projection. Master! Auber struggled, but she felt that she couldn't move her limbs at all. Don't move. That projection floated unhurriedly in front of her and sighed lightly. Just now, someone tried to replace your soul. As she spoke, the newcomer struck out a hand seal, and Mu Qianqian's figure appeared in the air. Do you recognize her? Mu Qianqian. It's her. Aba's heart was shaken, and her eyes widened slightly. I remember now. Just now, when I was in the carriage, I suddenly felt a shockwave attack my conscience. She was still a bit muddle-headed at the time, so she was caught off guard and injured by this shockwave. At that time, it felt like several large hammers were hammering her brain, and she couldn't help but stare blankly before fainting from the pain. Conscious. The newcomer pondered carefully before nodding in understanding. It is indeed so. Because the other party wanted to touch your soul, she was bound to infiltrate your conscious. However, she didn't know that the golden talisman jade tome in your conscious blocked the majority of the attack for you and even repelled her soul. Then where is Mu Qianqian? Her? She went for wool and came home shorn. After her soul was repelled, it landed in an unfamiliar beggar's body. She had only herself to blame. However, how could she allow such a vicious person to continue harming her beloved disciple to live in this world? Beggar. Aba's head moved, but she still couldn't raise her limbs. So you're saying that Mu Qianqian became a beggar? This really was the biggest joke in the world. Your Aunt Master has already chased after her. I'm afraid that she has already become a pile of bones by now, the woman said coldly. Master, I know you are my master. But why? Why don't I remember anything? Her heart was unbearably stifled. Qiao Mu really wanted to hit her own head to make it recall. The person's shadowy palm gently brushed her face, and he chuckled softly. Silly child, when your master and your martial uncle sent you back, we sealed most of your power, including your memories. Due to the passage of time and space, some of your memories will be lost. Don't worry, as you grow, you will remember everything. But why did you seal my power? The little guy blinked his eyes and tilted his little face to look at the shadow. Because, you're too strong. If I hadn't sealed you back then, the heavenly Tao would never have allowed you to come back. When you leave, the laws will restrict you. Hee hee. Master, your joke is so funny. Qiao said that she was very strong, and Master was also saying that she was very strong. Haha, why didn't she know that she was so strong? However, Master sensed that there really are quite a lot of little freaks that ignore the laws in your lower star domain. The shadow's finger moved slightly, and a moon-shaped jade pendant suddenly hung around Aba's neck. Little treasure, your soul has been unstable since many years ago. Master told you last time that you absolutely cannot pull out the Fushi sword in your current situation. You must be obedient, understand? Master, I'm very obedient. Chapter 968. As soon as the jade pendant was hung around the little fellow's neck, she felt a chill attack her, so cold that she couldn't help but shiver. But very quickly, after that layer of chill peeled off, the moon-shaped jade pendant almost merged with her, instantly becoming warm and comfortable. Although the golden talisman jade tome helped you block it and the soul replacement failed, your soul body still suffered a slight shock. So it's normal for you to feel unwell and weak all over. Rest for a day or two and you'll be fine. This is the soul-calming frost jade, the essence that your martial uncle extracted from the heart of the frost jade. It can stabilize your consciousness and help you cultivate and repair your divine sense. Aba lowered her head to look at the soul-calming frost jade hanging around her neck. Master, can you tell me your name? She kept feeling that her master's and martial uncle's names were at the tip of her tongue, but she couldn't remember them. Master. Whoosh. There seemed to be the sound of iron chains swinging in the air. Aba slightly widened her eyes. She couldn't see anything, but she could feel that the shadow's arms seemed to be bound by chains. Tian Dao, that's enough. Her precious disciple only wanted to know her name. She had to freaking be restricted? That's too much. Was her name so shameful? Come back quickly. If you don't come back soon, the space-time here will collapse. Oh. If Tian Dao could transform now, he would probably go crazy. If rolling on the ground begging for mercy was useful, Tian Dao would definitely be paralyzed on the ground and refuse to get up. Master. Master. Aba struggled with her little hands and feet, trying to climb up from the bed. But when she moved, She felt like her head was being hit by a hammer. It was very painful. Don't move. Master is fine, I just have to go back. That person flicked a small green jade bottle into Aba's arms. This is a core foundation pill. It can help you consolidate and stabilize your cultivation. Master sees that there's a powerful force in your body that hasn't completely merged. You. Tian Dao. I haven't finished speaking yet. Indeed, the earth essence in her body had yet to fully integrate. Aba anxiously called out, Master, Master, can you tell me how we met? That person's faint laughter slightly rippled in the silent air. The first time I saw you, you were only 7 years old. You were surrounded by countless strong enemies, holding the Fushi sword in your hand. Yes, you were killing people. Tian Dao shrieked in a crisp voice. How could you reveal so much about the past to her? Come back quickly. Time and space will collapse. A crack appeared in the void. Master, Master. The little fellow called out anxiously. The voice slowly faded away. Xiaobao, take good care of yourself. Your uncle Master and I will only be able to sense it when there are any unusual movements in your soul. Rest well and don't get hurt again. Master. Aba struggled to move, and his little hand was suddenly grasped by a warm hand. Jojo. Emolian looked at her worriedly. Did you have a nightmare again? Aba looked at him in a daze, and called out somewhat pitifully, Emolian, I can't move. This feeling of not being able to control her limbs and being unable to move at all was really terrible. This would make her think of those unbearable past for no reason. Chapter 969. Emolian hastily picked her up and patted her back comfortingly. It's fine, it's fine. How do you feel now? Headache. I can't move my entire body except for my neck. The more Aba spoke, the more she felt that she was rather pitiful. It was all that Mu Qianqian's fault. Why did she have to replace her soul without any rhyme or reason? Emolian hugged her with heartache. He circled her limp body and said softly, Your conscience seems to have been damaged by an external force for no reason. Just now, I used medicinal power. You used medicinal power to help me. Xiao Mu lifted her head and stared intently at his fatigued face. Did you overuse the medicinal power? No, I know what I'm doing. Emolian comforted her. Jojo, do you know what happened? Aba nodded. It's Mu Qianqian. When she thought up to this point, a thought suddenly flashed through Aba's mind. She probably used a type of forbidden curse to force my soul out of my body and take over my body. What? Emolian was shocked. My master told me. Aba didn't hide it from him. My master came by just now. Your master? Emolian abruptly recalled that he seemed to have sensed a powerful aura flowing inside the room. However, when he turned around to look, he only saw a black fog-like projection before he was knocked unconscious by someone. Just how powerful was Jojo's master? Aba nodded and said anxiously, Emolian, look at my neck. There's a moon-shaped jade pendant. Take it off and see if there's anything engraved on it. Emolian nodded. Just as he reached out to touch that moon-shaped jade pendant, his fingers shrank back from the chill seeping into his body. What's wrong? Aba could feel his body tense up. Extremely cold. Emolien's hand slowly lit up with a cluster of red flames. She used it to envelop the jade pendant, and only then did she take it. Are there any words on it? Aba's eyes lit up. There's a name. Emolien flipped the moon-shaped jade pendant over, revealing a few small characters on the back. Dark Phoenix. Against the heavens. Aba seemed to have been hit by something. He was stunned for a moment, and then he shouted excitedly, Yes, yes. My master is called Dark Phoenix. I remember now. And Martial Uncle Nitian. I remember now. Emolien didn't say anything. She just looked at her and reached out to pat her back to help her calm down. However, that was all. When she saw the names, she could recall some of them, but she couldn't remember anything else. However, her master said that as long as she truly matured, she would definitely be able to break the seal and obtain the missing part of her memories. Lien put that moon-shaped jade pendant back on her neck. This jade is very good. It can help you nourish your conscious. If you wear it to cultivate your spiritual conscious, it might be twice the result with half the effort. Lien, do you believe in karma? Lien looked at her in a daze. At the same time, he reached out to hug her tightly. His heart also started to fluctuate slightly. I do. As long as it's you who say it, I believe it. He looked at her deeply, then carried her to the bed and tucked her in. Sleep for a while, okay? Chow Mu responded with a MHM. She indeed felt exhausted, a kind of mental exhaustion. Chapter 970. Her master had said that her soul had always been unstable and needed to be nurtured properly. She could not afford to suffer any more damage at this stage. Although she couldn't remember many things now, she already had a strange and accurate speculation in her heart about this. In addition, Chochio had confidently told her that she was reborn because her master and uncle master had used the power of time and space. So in the end, after she died in her previous life, she did not immediately come back to life. Secondly, her soul had probably wandered in a desolate void for a long time. She did not know how long she had wandered in this world. Moreover, she did not know whether that void was hell or not. She could not remember what had happened in there. After that, she must have met her master and uncle master. Until her master and uncle master used the power of time and space to help her come back to life, she had lost all her memories of wandering and how she interacted with her master and uncle master. Actually, after coming back to life, there was no need to delve into the past. But there were some things she really did not want to forget. In addition, after her rebirth, there was one thing she did not dare to think about. It was a knot in her heart that she had always buried deep in her heart. She felt that if she dug out that hazy memory, it would hurt her to death. How did she die in her previous life? She had never thought about it. Aber only felt her head hurt when she thought about the cause of her death in her previous life. It was as if 10,000 needles were fiercely throbbing in her brain. She was so tired that she could not even lift her eyelids. As she breathed, she smelled a faint calming medicinal fragrance. She did not know when she had fallen into a deep sleep. Seeing her frown, Lien, who did not seem to be asleep with her eyes closed, gave her some medicine. Now that her breathing was slowly stabilizing, he was slightly relieved. Lien sat with her for a while longer. Then, he got up and left Nanju Garden, closing the door behind him. A dark figure appeared beside him. Where is he? This subordinate has temporarily left him in the guest court where no one will go. Your Highness, are you going over now? Aoyi whispered. Lien nodded and led Aoyi in the direction of the guest court. As soon as she entered the guest garden, Lien quickened her pace and directly pushed open one of the side rooms. There was only a little light in the room. Under the dim light, a man was lying on the cold ground. He looked extremely miserable. His arms and legs revealed part of his white bones. He was lying there gasping for breath. Even his breathing seemed to be very weak. This was the Do family's Do Kuei. Your Highness. Stay Up Late placed a document in Lien's hands. The information was very concise and contained only 2 pages of information. Aoyi whispered to him, according to the Night Pavilion's investigation, this young Master Do has some unknown hobbies. He whispered into His Highness the Crown Prince's ear, and Lien cast an extremely icy gaze at Do Kuei. Lien put down the 2 pieces of information. The only thing she knew was that Do Kuei's parents used to live in a town near Kwoto village and had previously planned to buy Chaolin. Do Kuei's family was only a branch of the capital's Do family. If not for Do Kuei's talent, it would have been very difficult for his parents, who were ordinary people, to enter the capital's Do family. Lien narrowed her eyes and turned to Aoyi. Wake him up. I have a few questions to ask. Yes. Aoyi stepped forward and ruthlessly splashed a basin of salt water on Do Kuei. Chapter 971. Do Kuei's eyes widened in shock, and his entire body trembled. Do you still remember Qiao Lin, the Crown Princess' younger sister? The Crown Prince asked mildly. Tell me, why did you want to buy the Crown Princess' younger sister back then? How could Do Kuei remember something from so many years ago when the Crown Prince asked? Moreover, he was in a terrible state right now. His breathing was intermittent, as if he would stop breathing at any moment. A cold glint flashed through the Crown Prince's eyes. You won't tell me? A listened from the side and couldn't help but lower his head, the corners of his mouth twitching. Do Kuei might not remember something that happened 7 or 8 years ago. Then this Crown Prince will turn you into a mechanical puppet. I'll imprison your flesh and even your soul in a mechanical puppet for all eternity. You'll never be able to reincarnate. Such frightening words had obviously stirred up Do Kuei's originally listless spirit. It was definitely because he was frightened. No, don't, he hissed. His voice was clearly blocked by the Crown Prince's defensive barrier. No matter how much he screamed, he couldn't alarm the others in the Qiao estate. Then are you going to tell me or not? The Crown Prince asked coldly. Your Highness, Your Highness. Do Kuei sobbed and writhed on the ground like a pitiful worm. I really don't remember, Your Highness. Your Highness. I really don't remember offending the Crown Princess. How could he dare to offend such a demon? If he really did offend her in the past, he was willing to kneel 3 times and kowtow 9 times to apologize to the Crown Princess. You don't remember? The Crown Prince's voice was faintly suppressed with anger. Then do you remember Kwoto Village? I remember. Kwoto Village is one of the villages near our town. The Do family was the leader of the town back then. They knew very well which villages paid more and which didn't. This Kwoto village was the poorest village. His father had once nagged him about how poor this village was and how there wasn't a bit of profit. Qiao Lin, the Crown Princess' younger sister. 7 or 8 years ago, your Do family wanted to buy this little girl from Kwoto village to adopt. Do Kuei's eyes widened. Her? It's her? Speaking of Kwoto village, he recalled that there was indeed such a matter back then. However, that family refused to sell their daughter, so the matter was left unsettled. Why did you buy her? Do Kuei stammered and didn't want to say anything. Suddenly, a purple flame fell on his waist and burned. He rolled on the ground in pain, but he couldn't put out the flame. Still not willing to speak? The Crown Prince asked coldly. Speak, I'll talk. Yes, I'm despicable and shameless. Do Kuei said, trembling. I saw that the little girl was cute, and I had thoughts that I shouldn't have. I wanted to buy her and raise her by my side for a few years. The Crown Prince's eyes darkened. Kill him. Get rid of his parents and family. Yes, Your Highness. No, Your Highness, I've already admitted to everything. If you want me to die, I have nothing to say. But don't blame my family, Emolienne tossed him a cold gaze. How could your parents not know about that little hobby of yours? No one in this family was innocent. No. Don't, Your Highness. Your Highness. Chapter 972. Do Kuei turned pale with fright as he watched the man slam the door and leave. He only felt that the flame at his waist seemed to have abruptly given birth to a strange power, and with a whoosh, the flames shot up extremely high. Emolienne took a deep breath and looked up at the boundless, pitch-black night sky, a pensive look flitting across her eyes. She could tell that Jojo's eyes were brimming with undisguised hatred for this Do Kuei. It was absolute hatred, and she wanted to execute this person by 1,000 cuts. If it was merely the small enmity of Kwoto Village's failed business transaction with Qiao Lin, how could she bear such intense hatred and resentment with this Do family? Her grudge with Do Kuei was limited to that transaction with Qiao Lin. Logically speaking, after the transaction failed, the two families should have no more interactions. In addition, she and Little Six Zhang had never met before Bailon City, So where did that inexplicable good feeling come from? Could it be that Duan Yu's crow's beak had really hit the nail on the head, and that it was an old grudge from a past life? What exactly happened in Jojo's past life? She completely didn't want to continue guessing. What was up with his Jojo's past life? Didn't that mean that his Jojo had once died? When she thought of this, Emolienne felt that her breathing had almost stopped. Under the boundless night sky, Missouri Lien's back was ramrod straight, and her deep phoenix eyes were gazing deeply into the distance. She didn't move in the slightest for a long time. Meanwhile, the Doe family had already been turned upside down. The Doe family steward, who had rushed over to report the news, trembled all over as he knelt in front of the Doe family's family head, Doe Hepping. He stammered, "After the Doe family's courtyard caught fire, the fire couldn't be extinguished no matter what. After we mobilized people and finally extinguished the fire with great difficulty, we only saw the corpses of Doe Kuei's family." "Did you make a clear count?" Eldest young Sir Doe asked coldly. Doe Kuei's family had a total of 7 people. Why they've already been burned to ashes. Eldest young Sir Doe glanced icily at Steward Doe. "That means we couldn't make a head count at all. Feng Mian, what do you want to say?" Doe Hepping attached great importance to his eldest son and second son. Whenever there was a problem, he liked to listen to his 2 sons' opinion. "Father, I want to say that the fire this time came so suddenly and strangely. I'm afraid that someone set the fire. Lead the way." Doe Fenghua stood up and glanced at Steward Doe. Steward Doe quickly led the way for the second young master, leading the 2 young masters and the Doe family's patriarch, Doe Hepping, to the Doe Kuei family's courtyard, which was blackened by the fire. The disciples surrounding the courtyard were all chased away by housekeeper Doe's men. In the end, the dozen or so servants went through the courtyard and only found 6 half-human and half-lesbian corpses. Doe Fenghua sighed and said, "Father, let's just let this matter pass. We'll hold the funeral tomorrow and just say it was an accident." "Fenghua?" Doe Fenghua took out a thin piece of paper from her sleeve and handed it to her father and elder brother. "You just offended the crown princess this morning, and now you're sending someone to silence me at night." Doe Hepping was suddenly furious. "What's more, I don't know if what's written on the paper is true or false. Could it be that just because Doe Kuei once tried to taint the crown princess's younger sister, he can treat human lives like grass?" Doe Kuei was considered an extremely talented member of the Doe family's younger generation, so Doe Hepping couldn't swallow the resentment in his heart. "Father, you have to swallow it even if you can't," Doe Fenghua said indifferently. "If you want the Doe family to be well, then draw a clear line between you and Doe Kuei's family from now on." After saying this, she swaggered off. Chapter 973. Doe Hepping glanced at Doe Fengmian. "Fengmian, what do you think?" Doe Fengmian nodded. "Second brother's analysis is correct. For our Doe clan, we have to swallow this anger for the time being. If my guess is correct, it wasn't the crown princess who did it. No matter how one looked at it, it was definitely that person who had made such a swift, incisive, and unpredictable move." Seeing that his 2 sons had the same attitude, Doe Hepping could only sigh helplessly and nod. Right now, the most important thing is Fengqi's preparation for the Mystic Beast Forest secret realm. Doe Hepping nodded. "That's right. It's a pity that Yao was eliminated. I originally thought that the 2 sisters could still travel together." Doe Fengmian said indifferently, "That's not bad. Look at the Mu clan. They originally had lofty aspirations of obtaining 2 spots, but in the end, they didn't obtain a single one. The Talisman patrician family's failure this time simply made them the laughingstock of the entire capital." Doe Hepping revealed a faint smile when he heard this. "That's right. Apart from the Wu clan, which was originally slightly weaker, this time, the Mu clan, the head of the 8 great patrician families, also joined the ranks of the losers. This was very surprising. The other 6 patrician families each had 1 person who won, so it could be considered a tie. In the Qin Estate's Crane Garden, young Master Omega Kotoku supported his chin with his hand and tilted his head slightly as he casually wrote and drew on a piece of paper. A delicate and pretty woman dressed in black stood silently in front of the desk with her head bowed. She wore a short jacket with arrow sleeves, and her long hair was neatly tied up tightly, revealing her high hairline. On this trip to the Mystic Beast Forest's secret realm, the first thing to search for is a 10,000-year-old Xuanji core. You should already be clear. Yes. Chin Susu nodded crisply. She participated in the selection as the eldest and second young master's foster sister. In reality, she was a hidden guard that the second young master had nurtured for many years. She was very clear about her position and what she needed to do. She only needed to act according to the second young master's orders and had no other thoughts. Also, Omega Kotoku put down the brush in his hand and indifferently swept a glance over Chin Susu. You must ensure Miss Chow's safety on this trip. If necessary, you must protect her with your life. Chin Susu was stunned for a moment, then nodded. Yes, subordinate obeys. Then, he carefully glanced at Omega Kotoku. Omega Kotoku asked coldly, what other questions do you have? If Miss Chow also wishes to obtain the Xuanji core, what should I do? Chin Susu pursed her lips, a serious look on her delicate face. Omega Kotoku suddenly smiled, a trace of dark green flowing in the depths of her eyes, and there was a faint warmth between her brows. If she wants it, then give it to her. It's just a Xuanji core. Chin Susu was stunned. Wasn't second young master spoiling her too much? Then may I ask, what is the point of this subordinate risking his life for? Was it to help Miss Chow obtain the Xuanji core? Second young master left the desk and walked out the door, leaving Chin Susu standing in front of the desk in a daze for a long time. A piece of ink paper floated down from the table and landed softly at Chin Susu's feet. Chin Susu looked down. The paper was filled with the word Chow, written clearly and forcefully on the back of the paper. Chin Susu pursed her lips. She was only a hidden guard. She would definitely complete her master's orders, even if it meant risking her life. Omega Kotoku walked out of the room and stroked the large crane that was strolling leisurely in the garden with a deep look in his eyes. Chapter 974. The patriarch of the Mu family, Mu Boming, was about to explode from anger. They had entered the selection competition full of confidence, but in the end, their Mu family didn't even get a single spot. In addition, Madame Mu had been weeping endlessly next to him, saying that something must have happened to her daughter since she hadn't returned yet. She nagged him to send people to search for her non-stop, which made him extremely vexed for no reason. Master, Madam. A servant hurriedly came to report, Miss has returned. Ah, my Chanqian has returned. Madame Mu promptly jumped up from her chair with joy on her face. Mu Boming glared at Madame Mu in displeasure. You're the only one who's freaking out all day. What could have happened to Chanqian? She must have gone to cause trouble again. Madame Mu ignored him and walked over to welcome her daughter. However, when she saw Mu Chanqian being carried in with a ghastly pale face, she immediately cried out in alarm. Chanqian! My daughter! Madame Mu pounced over to hug her daughter and howled, Who exactly caused you to become like this? Mu Boming was also slightly alarmed, and he turned around to berate that servant. What exactly happened? Master, this lowly one also doesn't know. Eldest Miss was thrown at the side door, and no one knows who sent Eldest Miss back. Chanqian, our daughter. Madame Mu bawled as she wiped her tears. Master, quickly think of a way to save our daughter. Mu Boming's expression was very unsightly, and he turned around to roar at that servant. What are you all still standing there for? Hurry and invite the capital's most famous physician to the estate to take eldest Mrs. Pulse. After the Mu family bustled about in a flurry of activity, Mu Boming was informed by several elderly physicians that his daughter Mu Chanqian had contracted a very rare soul loss illness and would probably never wake up again in this lifetime. Late at night, a short and small figure appeared on the wall of the outer courtyard of the Marquis of Jeyuan's estate. This person was precisely Sir Black Cat, who had quietly left after throwing Mu Chanqian's abandoned body at the entrance of the Mu family's estate. After he left with Arbor in his conceit, he found a remote place, but he couldn't wake Mu Chanqian up no matter what. She tried all kinds of methods and used everything she could think of, even using fire and stabbing, but in the end, Mu Chanqian was still as motionless as a corpse. Lord Black Cat then realized that something might have gone wrong during the soul-swapping process. This was what caused Mu Chanqian's body to enter a soulless state, so she could be considered a completely useless trash. Therefore, Black Cat wanted to take advantage of the night to come to the Marquis of Jiyuan's estate to take a look at Miss Chow's situation. Unfortunately, his front foot had just leaped onto the wall when his back foot was almost struck by a sudden burst of profound energy. An ambush? What a good black cat! It bent its waist in midair and then landed steadily on the ground covered with small pebbles in the courtyard. When he saw clearly who was in front of him, his pupils could not help but shrink slightly. Paramolian clapped her hands with a faint smile. The corners of her lips curled up slightly as she slowly walked over from under the shade of the tree. Her pair of phoenix eyes appeared especially bright under the illumination of the night stars. I guess that someone would come, but I didn't expect it to be you. Emolien sneered at him. You are that clown from the Luo family troupe, right? Why do you have to hide your head and show your tail? Black Cat was truly startled by His Highness the Crown Prince acting like this. In his impression, he had only seen His Highness the Crown Prince from afar on the day they entered the palace. Chapter 975. After that, although he and the Luo family troupe were arranged to stay in the palace, only the concubines came to watch the opera. He had never seen the Crown Prince. In other words, the Crown Prince recognized his identity with just one glance when he entered the palace? What kind of terrifying eyesight was this? When he entered the palace, he was a short clown hiding in the crowd. He was inconspicuous. Even so, the Crown Prince's eyesight was so accurate. Lord Black Cat's pupils constricted again, and he stepped back. The Crown Prince's lips curled into a cold smile. Suddenly, Lord Black Cat moved. He threw out a Xianyin talisman in each hand. This was the most basic offensive talisman in the forbidden talisman arts. It drew on the Yin energy between heaven and earth. Once it entered a person's body, it could cause extensive damage. Lord Black Cat was using a mid-level Xianyin talisman. If Arbor was here, he could use a high-level defensive talisman to block it. Yet at this time, Emolien didn't even look at Black Cat. Purple flames ignited in his hand, and he directly burned the two mystic Yin talismans. Yin energy could not withstand fire spirits. Moreover, Emolien's purple flame spirit was a 9th-level spiritual fire. It could ignore all other fire spirits except for the holy flame. The two Xian Yin talismans struggled to break free from the raging fire, and then were burned to ashes. Lord Black Cat's pupils constricted, and he immediately turned to flee. However, as soon as he moved, countless arrows shot at him from the top of the wall, causing him to fly back. Stay Up Late waved his hand, and a row of people stood up from the wall. They were all waiting for Lord Black Cat. A talisman master, Emolien said calmly. Tell me, how should I deal with you? Damn it! Lord Black Cat gritted his teeth, and suddenly threw out a dozen Xianyin talismans from his sleeves. He charged at Stay Up Late and the others. Disperse, Emolien said coldly. Stay Up Late and the others were not stupid. Seeing so many talismans coming at them, they quickly jumped down from the wall. Bam, bam, bam. The talismans cracked in the air, and a cold aura came at them. Emolien swiftly leaped onto the top of the wall and formed several complicated hand seals that resembled the shape of a lotus with lightning speed that left no time for covering one's ears. A few black lotuses suddenly appeared, and were thrown in front of Lord Black Cat. Lord Black Cat growled, and quickly retreated. He covered his face with his sleeves, and his body was full of energy for defense. Suddenly, boom, boom, a burst of explosive sounds rang out, and the wall was directly torn into pieces by this force. Lord Black Cat's broken body, along with the wall, fell heavily to the ground. Cough, cough, cough. Black Cat coughed out a few mouthfuls of blood in horror. It turned its head in disbelief to look at the tall and slender figure of the Crown Prince, who remained silent. How? His Highness the Crown Prince had defeated him in one move. He could be considered one of the top charm masters, but when he met His Highness the Crown Prince, he didn't even have the slightest ability to fight back. How could youngsters nowadays be so terrifying? How could he endure this? Cough, cough. Lord Black Cat could not stop coughing. Emolien gave a look, and stay up late, and the others immediately jumped forward. They lifted Lord Black Cat from the ground, and forced him to kneel in front of him. You look a bit familiar to me, Emolien remarked dryly. Chapter 976. Swoosh. Aoye understood tacitly and stepped forward to pull off the black hat on Sir Black Cat's head. While he was at it, he grabbed her hair and lifted her face up. Emolien's eyes flickered as she looked at his face and smiled coldly. No wonder you look so familiar. You must be the brother of the snake-driving dwarf. That's right. If Arbor was here, she would definitely realize that Sir Black Cat's face was exactly the same as the two dwarves who attacked her. The eldest of the three dwarf brothers was this Sir Black Cat, who was adept at using charms. He was Shuntian Prefecture's Lu Iji's lackey. Emolien narrowed her eyes and nodded at Aoye. Aoye's hand chopped down cleanly and knocked Sir Black Cat unconscious. Interrogate him properly. This time, we must interrogate Lu Iji's whereabouts. Emolien curled her lips and sneered. We have no interest in playing cat and mouse games with him anymore. Yes, Your Highness. Aoye knew that His Highness the Crown Prince was in a very bad mood, so he hurriedly shrunk his neck and agreed. I'll mend this wall later. Emolien turned around and walked briskly into the courtyard. The next morning, Arbor lay on the bed, feeling no different from a paralyzed patient. She could move her arms and legs slightly, but she still didn't have the strength to get up from the bed. Wei Ziqin, Qiao Zhongbang, Qiao Lin, and the others came to check on her anxiously. After being comforted by her, they left Nanju Garden with some relief. At noon, she finally felt hungry. The Crown Prince lifted her up and fed her half a bowl of porridge. How are you feeling? Emolien reached out to touch her forehead and whispered, Are you feeling better? I don't have any strength. Qiao Mu tilted her head dejectedly. Will I always be a good-for-nothing? Emolien couldn't help but laugh. How is that possible? Your soul is shaken, so it will definitely affect your body. I'm sure he'll recover in 2 days. That may be the case, but aren't we about to go to the Mystic Beast Forest Secret Realm? It's still early. We still have 10 days. It won't be too late to go there then. Speaking of this, Emolien couldn't help but glance at her worriedly. Jojo, I can only escort you to the entrance of the Mystic Beast Forest Secret Realm. I can't accompany you into the Secret Realm. Of course. Arbor said with a nod. Qiao Dongbua had previously said that if anyone above the age of 20 tried to force their way into the Mystic Beast Forest Secret Realm, they would be mercilessly exterminated at the entrance. Therefore, this arcane realm had an age limit. Although she didn't know how it determined this, she certainly didn't want Emolien to take the risk. Then I won't be able to see you for a month, Emolien said unhappily. The Mystic Realm could only be opened once every 10 years. Each time it opened, it would be open for a month. Within a month, the Mystic Realm would not open again. Of course, if one couldn't leave the Mystic Realm after a month, then there was a possibility that they would stay there forever. You must remember to come out once the 1-month deadline is up. You mustn't be greedy and act rashly, got it? Emolien suddenly thought of this and hastily said to her, Don't worry, I'm not stupid. Arbor puffed up her cheeks, thinking that she was just going in to take a look. Most importantly, she wanted to take the opportunity to make a trip to the Mystic Beast Forest and gather some Mystic Beast cores for the little white squirrel to nourish its body. Chapter 977. Previously, Emolien had morning sunlight pavilion's people gather a batch of mystic beast cores and feed them to the little white squirrel. Sure enough, it was greatly beneficial to its body. At this time, the little fat squirrel was a lot fatter than before, and its big tail was also longer. She reckoned that if she fed it more mystic beast cores, it should wake up. Thinking of this, Auber's mood couldn't help but improve. The two of them talked for a while with their heads together. In the afternoon, people from the palace came to invite Emolien back. Xiao Yao stayed by the bedside to look after Auber. Auber's spirit was a bit weak, so she slept. When she woke up, it was already 10 minutes into the night. Auber felt a bit dizzy in her daze. She got up and ate 2 mouthfuls of food before lying down to sleep again. She didn't know that when she fell asleep, the moon-shaped jade pendant on her neck had been emitting a faint light. These 2 days, Auber had been eating and sleeping, switching between half awake and half asleep. After 2 full days, she finally felt that her head didn't hurt as much anymore, and her spirit also recovered a bit. When she got up early in the morning, she gave Xiao Yao a big fright. "Miss, why are you up? I've been lying down for 2 days. It's time to get up and move around." Auber sighed and carelessly wiped her little face before throwing the handkerchief into the basin. "That's true." Xiao Yao nodded and said, "Miss can finally get up and move around. I'll go tell Master and Madam this good news." "Go ahead." Auber nodded. "Oh, have someone prepare the carriage. I want to go out and take a breather." She was almost bored to death at home. Now that she was in the carriage, she specially had Xiao Yao hang up the windows and curtains a bit so that she could breathe in the cold wind outside. "Miss, it's cold outside today. Will you catch a cold?" Xiao Yao nervously draped a fur coat over her. Auber could not help but laugh. She knew her own body better than anyone else. There was no problem at all. It was just that her soul had been touched and she was mentally exhausted. However, after a day or 2 of repairs, it would probably be completely healed. These 2 days, our Guanlon city hasn't been peaceful. Xiao Yao pursed her lips. Rats and ants can be seen everywhere on the streets, and they're all very big. They all said that there was a problem with the Nimpan Tower of the Hong Hai Temple. I don't know who started this rumor, but it said that a demon has appeared and a calamity has descended from the heavens. These days, His Highness the Crown Prince has been busy dealing with the rumors in Jingdo. Xiao Yao turned her head and looked at Auber with a smile. "Are you going to the palace to see His Highness?" Auber was startled and then shook his head indifferently. "I just wanted to come out and take a breather." "Oh." It was only then that Xiao Yao clearly saw a hint of disgust flash past the Crown Prince Consort's eyes. This was disgust for the palace. Sigh. Xiao Yao let out a long sigh. It seemed that after the Lantern Festival incident, it would be difficult to make the Crown Princess willingly enter the palace. "Right, that Taoist priest Dayu?" Auber asked with a frown. "Did you find him?" She felt that this person was a bit strange, as if he harbored great enmity towards her. However, she did not know him at all. "We've searched the entire city, but we couldn't find him. I'm afraid he escaped." Peony frowned as well. His Highness the Crown Prince had sent many people to investigate. Chapter 978. Even so, that old Taoist was still able to slip away. It was evident that his methods were exceedingly formidable and unrivaled. Auber nodded in response. Recalling Priest Dayu's mocking gaze, she couldn't help but secretly clench her fists. There was definitely something strange about this person. The two of them sat in the carriage and casually strolled around the city. During this time, Auber indeed saw many fat rats appear in the city. They wantonly scurried through the streets, causing the pedestrians to shriek in fright. "Miss, it's those fat rats. They look really disgusting." Xiao Yao grabbed the carriage curtain and turned to glance at her. A strange glint flashed through Auber's eyes. She nodded and said, "Amen, it's about time to breathe. Let's go back. A sorcerer has come into being? A calamity descending from the heavens." Haha, it wasn't that she was sensitive, but she felt that there was a hint of a conspiracy behind this. However, she wanted to see how such a huge accusation would be planted on her head if she wasn't in the capital. The next day, His Highness the Crown Prince, who was discussing politics in the Eastern Palace's small study, received a report from a subordinate. "Your Highness, it's bad. The Crown Princess packed her things and ran away." "What?" Emo Lien immediately tossed away the brush in her hand and jumped up from her chair. Hui Feng swept a glance at Hidden Flower, who came to report. Ha, was it his imagination? Why did he feel that Hidden Flower had an impudent smile in his eyes? Wasn't he afraid that the Crown Prince would destroy him with a single hand with his ghastly expression of schadenfreude? What exactly happened? Hurry and speak. Emo Lien was both shocked and surprised. Last night, he even went to the Chao estate to see his little emperor darling. He was very happy to see that she could get out of bed and walk around safely. Why did she run away today? This subordinate doesn't know. Hidden Flower chuckled as his body swayed. He covered his mouth and said, "Perhaps the Crown Princess wanted to give you a surprise." Ha, what a pleasant surprise. Hui Feng rolled his eyes at him before retracting his gaze. He cupped his fists and bowed to Crown Prince Lien. "Your Highness, this subordinate is willing to immediately go and chase the Crown Princess back." Hidden Flower pursed his lips when he heard this. "Come on. The Crown Princess is riding on Qing Luan. How are you going to chase after her? You think you can outrun Qing Luan with your 2 legs? Ha. Emo Lien hurriedly walked out. Where did she go? Your Highness, don't be anxious." Hidden Flower appeared in front of the Crown Prince in a flash and took out a letter from his sleeve. "The Crown Princess left a letter for you." Emo Lien hurriedly took the letter and opened it. "Emo Lien, I'll bring the little monk back to Hulun Mountain. We'll be back in 3 days. Don't worry." Emo Lien was stunned for a moment, but she still walked out of the study. Hidden Flower hurriedly said, Your Highness, are you really going? The Crown Princess said that you've been busy with government affairs and asked you to focus on them." Who would be in the mood to deal with political affairs? His wife had run away. What the hell was he supposed to deal with? As he spoke, Gong Chong and ran over in small steps, panting as he shouted, Your Highness, the great king has summoned you. Her Majesty the Empress Dowager and the 12th Prince have returned. Your Highness, don't worry. Lightning and the others have already followed the Crown Princess. Even though they might not be able to catch up, at this moment, our dear Chiao Mu, who had packed her bags and ran away, had already flown to Kwoto village on Qing Luan. In his arms, he was also hugging the bald little monk, Kong Kong. Benefactress, where are we going? Chapter 979. Aba sat cross-legged inside the defensive barrier, flipping through the parchment map in her hands. Kong Kong, your Buddhist hand seals are not bad? Hearing that, the little monk immediately patted his chest with his claws. Of course, this is a compulsory course for this little monk. Blue Luan, we're almost there. Let's go down. Okay, master. Blue Luan immediately flapped her wings and slowly descended. That day, she had obtained a parchment map from the old monk of Shadow Moon Temple. With just one glance, she could clearly recognize that the location marked on the land of heritage was Kwoto Village's Hulun Mountain. Wasn't it very surprising? She had not expected that after leaving the village for so many years, she would actually return once again. And according to the location marked on the map, this land of heritage was actually... It was in the vicinity of the stone forest where she had first found the paradise. This was really too much of a coincidence. A faint trace of doubt flashed through Aba's heart. After jumping down from Blue Luan's back, Blue Luan immediately transformed into human form. She had the appearance of a handsome youth of 17 or 18 years old. Her features were very outstanding, but her green robes were a little tight on her body. Da Qing, you seem to have grown a little taller. Aba reached out to compare their heights. When Blue Luan had first transformed into human form, she had only been 13 or 14 years old. In this half a month, she had grown a little too much. As master, it was time for her to buy some clothes for her subordinates, so that they would not be so tight when they went out. It would be a little funny. Master, while absorbing the essence earth, I also benefited a lot. Blue Luan hurriedly nodded. Benefactress, carry me. The little monk dragged his feet and suddenly reached out to tug at the corner of Arber's clothes. Scared. Arber reached out and picked him up, carrying him in her arms as they continued forward. The Kwoto village in front of them was now a pile of ruins. After 7 to 8 years of wind and rain, the originally half-built mud houses had now collapsed. Chiao Mu stepped on the pile of dust and rubble as she slowly walked, paying attention to her surroundings as she walked. The little monk abruptly formed a Buddhist seal with his chubby fingers before smacking Chiao Mu's forehead with a smack. Arber, benefactress, there are quite a few ghost spirits here. Did you feel unwell just now? The corner of Arber's mouth twitched as he shook his head. No. Why did this brat feel like he was a fraud? The little monk shook his head and muttered to himself, Benefactress, you are indeed a unique weirdo in this world. Then take a look again. Do you see anything? Just now, he had used the Buddha seal to open her eyes. For the time being, she could see some drifting ghosts. She should avoid them as much as possible. It was not good to be contaminated with Yin Qi. No. Arber shook her head. She only saw the ruins. Arber pinched his chubby cheeks and asked curiously, Are there really ghosts in this world? Not ghosts, but ghost spirits. The little monk puffed up his chubby cheeks and said in a childish voice, Since there are immortal spirits in this world, there are naturally ghost spirits. Aren't you great talisman masters able to make deity-inviting talismans and invite immortal spirits to possess you? Arber silently shut her little mouth. She had never heard of deity-inviting talismans. This brat actually knew quite a lot. In the past, after finishing my evening classes, Master would tell me some anecdotes before going to bed. Benefactress, you have to read more books. Chapter 980. Arber didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Was she being looked down on by a little ghost? What else did great Master Kong-in say? Master said that ghost spirits are the convergence of resentment and are born with the power of evil. Oh, there was once a talisman master who wantonly killed villagers and deliberately created ghost spirits to practice a forbidden technique called the Dark Yin Talisman. Arber nodded in understanding. I understand. I haven't learned the God-inviting talisman yet. Then it's no wonder you're ignorant and inexperienced. The little monk sighed, pretending to be an old man. Arber's mouth twitched. She raised a hand and rubbed his little bald head. Speak properly, don't be so sarcastic. Benefactress, you really can't see the ghost spirits. The little monk casually pointed in front of them. I can't see them. It was quite strange that Arber couldn't see the ghost spirits. After all, the little monk had opened his eyes for her. These ghost spirits probably didn't look too beautiful, so it didn't matter whether she could see them or not. As the two spoke, they heard rustling sounds coming from the ruins in front of them. Suddenly, an ugly one-legged, one-armed corpse had jumped out. Its skin and flesh had rotted away, making it look like a moving skeleton. Wah! The little monk reflexively reached out and wrapped his arms tightly around Arber's neck. In the next moment, Arber raised her arm and shot a crow-gold arrow at the skeletal corpse puppet, sending it flying and landing heavily on the ground. She had naturally killed it with a headshot. That corpse puppet definitely wouldn't be able to get up again. Arber put down her crow-repeating crossbow and stared at the corpse puppet in a daze. After so many years, she couldn't recognize who this person was at all. Or perhaps, even if she recognized him, she would still shoot him to death. Arber pursed her lips and didn't say anything else. She observed her surroundings again. Seeing that there were no other strange movements, she stepped forward. After so many years, the villagers of the nearby Wei family village, which was close to Kwoto village, had probably either died or fled. Most of the zombies had also left this barren area to hunt for food. Benefactress, you used to live here? The little monk hugged her neck and asked softly, "Are you in a bad mood?" "Okay, stop talking." Arbor carried the child and walked quickly towards Hullen Mountain. Along the way, they could see how tragic Kwoto village was at that time. Most of the villagers should have escaped. Those whose bodies were torn apart didn't turn into corpse puppets, but because their resentment didn't dissipate, they became the ghost spirits that the little monk spoke of. If my senior martial brothers didn't go out to travel, they could help the villagers here release their souls from purgatory, the small monk muttered. Chiao Mu didn't pay him any more attention as she carried him and walked towards Hullen Mountain with Qingwan. Although she hadn't returned for many years, she still remembered some of the paths. Abba took a shortcut all the way to the stone forest and looked around. "Did you find anything?" The little monk shook his head. "Shouldn't I use the startled swan dagger to open this land of heritage first?" Abba muttered to herself. The startled swan dagger suddenly flew out of her conscious and circled above her head. Suddenly, a blue figure glided through the air and reached out a huge palm to grab the startled swan dagger. "You're courting death." Abba's eyes flickered, and she threw out several hidden weapons. The dark wind attacked, and the huge palm suddenly shrank back. Abba's eyes were cold as she stared. Chapter 981. It's you. Abba looked at the old Taoist in Sian and sneered. Actually, the Taoist priest in front of her was only about 40 years old, but he gave off an aged aura. Abba was very clear that this Taoist priest's actual age was definitely not as young as he looked at this moment. He might even be close to 100 years old. Moreover, she had previously fought with this person in the palace, so she was very clear about his strength. She didn't expect that the stinky Taoist priest that she couldn't find in the city would actually appear in Kwoto village. Although Abba was baffled, she reacted extremely quickly. Without waiting for the old Taoist priest to retreat, she took advantage of him, the ferrule in her hand gliding with an ink-colored light, heading straight for the old Taoist priest's neck. A line of fire suddenly shot toward the old Taoist priest. Qingwan raised a sword and sent out an icy wind, stabbing over as well. However, it was blocked halfway by an eagle-faced ferocious beast. The eagle-faced ferocious beast was very ugly. It was born with 2 pairs of wings, one long and one short. The short pair of wings were like crippled wings that hadn't fully developed, and they were very ugly when curled up in front of its chest. When Qingwan saw this eagle-faced ferocious beast, she didn't even blink as she directly drew out several ice blades and attacked the eagle-faced ferocious beast. At the same time, the startled swan dagger suspended in midair flashed in the air and suddenly released a dazzling light. In front of it, in the originally empty broken stone forest, 4 sealed transparent barriers suddenly appeared. The little monk hurriedly rushed forward and struck out 4 to 5 seals around the barriers. Then, he turned his head and blasted out a flame attack while calling out cutely, "Benefactress, quickly come in." In order to dodge the flame attack, the old Taoist priest twisted his body slightly and dodged. Abba took this opportunity to quickly rush into the transparent barrier. How could the old Taoist priest let her escape? A huge jet-black claw darted out of his chest and grabbed at Abba's shoulder. Slap! In a moment of desperation, Abba pulled out a green vine and whipped it directly at that huge claw. The old Taoist priest was caught off guard and just happened to be hit. His claw retracted in pain, and Abba took the opportunity to run forward a few steps, heading straight for the transparent barrier. "Where do you think you're going?" The old Taoist snorted angrily and sneered, "I really underestimated you." He had a lot of secrets. Not only could he draw high-level summoning talismans, but he also had the power of the wood spirit. Hee hee. Watch this old man catch you. Boom! The entire mountain trembled violently 3 times in a terrifying tremor. Even the damned old Taoist, who was still chattering, was thrown back 3 or 4 steps by this huge shock. He spat out a mouthful of blood. "Damned girl!" The old Taoist shouted angrily. When he caught this cunning girl, he would definitely dismember her body to vent the hatred in his heart. What Abba tossed out was none other than the core-ravaging thunder that Duan Yu gave him. It was enough to give the old geezer a hard time. Seeing him quickly retreat, if he didn't leave now, when would he? Arbor immediately drilled into the transparent barrier. Qing Wan also got rid of the eagle-faced beast's entanglement and rushed into the transparent barrier. The little monk immediately formed several Buddhist hand seals and sealed the passage. The three people's figures instantly disappeared inside. The old Taoist priest wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and fiercely turned his head. He watched helplessly as the three people fled like rabbits. He immediately roared angrily at the sky. "Abba! This D*MN girl, let's see where she can escape to." He didn't expect that the D*MN girl would grow to this extent after being left alone. It was simply abominable. Chapter 982. When the three figures reappeared, they were already in a small and quiet bamboo forest. This land of heritage wasn't big. Behind the bamboo forest were three small thatched cottages. There was only a shallow stream flowing in front of the door. It really looked like a secluded place. Secluded, tranquil, and light. The moment Arbor entered this place, she took a deep breath. She only felt that her heart was filled with a sense of peace. No matter how much fighting and killing was going on outside, it had nothing to do with this place. "Benefactress, what should we do next?" There was a faint trace of worry between the little monk's brows. Arbor glanced at him and immediately reached out to rub his little face. "You're so young, but you look so mature. If there's anything, big sister will be here. What's the rush? Let's go see this senior first." After saying that, she pulled the round-headed little monk with one hand and walked into the small bamboo forest. They came to the door of the three small thatched cottages. Pushing open the master bedroom in the middle, a faint pill fragrance wafted out. Arbor's figure suddenly froze. She stared blankly at the skeleton on the bed, slightly dazed. The skeleton was covered in a layer of bright red robes. Its sitting posture was extremely upright. For a moment, Arbor seemed to see the woman in red who had swept through an army of 10,000 people single-handedly in the past. "Benefactress." The little monk reached out to shake her clothes. Arbor came back to her senses. She lowered her head and looked at Kong Kong blankly. "What's wrong?" Arbor shook her head. She subconsciously pressed a hand to her chest. Why did she suddenly feel like she couldn't breathe? It was as if there was an invisible claw tightly grasping her heart. For a moment, she couldn't speak. It was as if in that moment, the sorrow in her heart was indescribable. It was as if she wanted to vent it through crying. Her eyes suddenly reddened. But why did she suddenly want to cry? "You look so sad, benefactress." The little monk reached out to hug her leg and rubbed against it. "Carry me." Arbor was still in a daze, but he did as he was told and picked up the little baldy. The little monk reached out and hugged her neck. He stretched out a small hand and placed it on her face. He said in all seriousness, "Don't cry. This little monk can't bear to see women cry." The mournful and sorrowful atmosphere was almost blown away by the little monk's words. Qing Wan watched from the side and rolled her eyes speechlessly. "Do you feel better?" The little monk's palm had an endless amount of heat. Therefore, when it touched her small, bone-chilling face, it gave her a sense of warmth. This senior should have died many years ago. The small monk turned his head and looked at the bed. "Look at her. Her expression is serene, and there's even a hint of a smile on her face. She must have known that her life was coming to an end." Qing Wan wanted to ridicule little Baldy. "Where did you get your eyes from? Looking at this skeleton with such a serene expression. Everyone will reach this step, unless you can jump out of the heaven's will and ignore the heavenly Tao. Benefactress, don't be sad." The little monk comforted her in a childish voice. "Let's go up and see what kind of good inheritance this senior left for you. Since senior opened the cave and let us in, she must have left something for you." Qing Wan nodded. "Master, don't be sad. Let's go and take a look." Arbor's eyes reddened. Actually, she also couldn't understand herself. It wasn't the first time she faced death. Why would her emotions fluctuate? Chapter 983. Indeed, after so many years, hadn't she already seen too much life and death? Why did she have such a change in her emotions when facing a stranger? She put down the little monk and walked forward. She picked up a yellowed letter placed beside the skeleton and opened it. Abba read it line by line. My disciple, Master doesn't know your name, so I'll call you this for now. You being able to step into this secret inheritance realm is a fortuitous opportunity. It's the fate of Master and disciple that we have. If you want to inherit my mantle, kneel down and kowtow 3 times to Master. Abba immediately put down the letter and knelt in front of the skeleton. Her eyes reddened slightly as she lowered her head and kowtowed 3 times to the senior extremely respectfully. She then picked up the letter and continued reading. Master's name is Long Chuyun. I'm an experienced pill refiner. You don't need to know who I am. Take away the space ring on Master's left hand. Inside is the inheritance that Master left for you. In addition, in the pill room on the left, there are pills that Master has refined for many years. In the grass hut on the right, there are medicinal herbs that Master has nurtured for many years. Take all of them. Master doesn't have any more requests for you. Master only hopes that you can treat merfolk well on account of our relationship as Master and disciple. The letter stopped here. As expected, Master didn't have any requests for her. Master only hoped that she could treat merfolk well when she encountered them in the future. But this wasn't a request at all. Abba only felt stuffy. There were too many doubts and things that he wanted to know. For example, why was Master hunted down by Shuntian Prefecture back then? And why did she die in this secret realm? He almost couldn't suppress the sorrow in his heart again. Long Chuyun didn't insist that the disciple take revenge on behalf of the Master like other people did. She didn't mention the name of her enemy at all. She didn't even mention Shuntian Prefecture. When she took off the lustrous white ring on Long Chuyun's skeleton and held it in her hand, she seemed to be able to feel a faint energy fluctuation. Space rings basically couldn't be seen in the lower star domain. Everyone knew that mystic cultivators had inner worlds, but it was another matter whether they could open one or not. Other than that, if he wanted to store things conveniently, he could only rely on the storage cabinets created by artificers. Storage cabinets were placed in various large cities to facilitate the storage of items. Naturally, a certain amount of profound stones was required as storage fees. Moreover, a small storage space usually required a lot of magnetite. Therefore, people who weren't especially rich wouldn't do something so extravagant. Don't even think about those villages and towns, they don't even have lockers. Therefore, this storage cabinet was expensive and inconvenient to use. As for the storage talismans made by Abba, they were hard to come by even on the black market. Naturally, he wouldn't even think about it. A spatial ring was something that most people in the lower star domain had never heard of. It could be seen that her teacher's identity was very special. Unfortunately, she didn't say anything, so Abba could only put away Long Chuyun's letter in confusion. He got up and walked to the grass hut next to him. Her master had said that he had left something for her in the 2 thatched cottages. Abba sighed softly, feeling suffocated. Why won't the teacher tell us who her enemy is? Senior Long is a person of great wisdom, the little monk muttered to himself. Xiao Mu blinked, and a dark glint flashed through her eyes. Chapter 984. If teacher asked her to get rid of the people from Shuntian Manor, she would be very happy. Qing Wan nodded. Perhaps this senior doesn't want her disciple, whom she has never met, to be in danger. Abba got up and walked towards the straw hut on the left. On the other side, Mo Lien went to the Empress Dowager's longevity palace to pay his respects to his grandmother. The Empress Dowager affectionately pulled his hand to sit down and looked at him kindly. My good grandson, let grandmother take a good look at you. Aren't you a little thin? It's all father's fault, throwing a bunch of trivial matters to grandson all day long. Grandson is so busy that I'm thin. Emolien didn't hesitate to dig a hole for his father. The great king, who was originally sitting at the side, almost jumped up from his stool when he heard that. The Empress Dowager couldn't help but chuckle. She turned around and glared at the great king. Great king, the crown prince is busy with his marriage after all. Don't give him too many things to do during this period of time. Biased. Blatant favoritism. He's the crown prince of a country. What's there to be busy with about his marriage? It's just a matter of a word. The great king couldn't help but look at his mother with a slightly sour nose. He didn't dare to refute and nodded his head. Son knows. Prince Mo immediately acted obedient to his grandmother. Grandmother, you still love your grandson dearly. The Empress Dowager laughed and turned to look at him. She asked with a smile, "Where's your little wife? Quickly let grandmother see her. The little girl that my grandson has taken a fancy to must be the best." Speaking of this, Prince Mo felt a little stifled. He coughed lightly and said, In 2 days, grandmother." "What's wrong?" The Empress Dowager couldn't help but be curious when she saw him hemming and hawing. Then she said, "Oh, that's right. I heard that your wife was slightly injured after the competition 2 days ago. Then let her rest for a few more days. Grandmother isn't in a hurry." Prince Mo hesitated for a moment. "Maybe my wife won't be able to come to the palace for a while." Empress Zhao, who was holding a teacup, trembled and almost spilled the tea on the floor. She glared at her son with her beautiful eyes. "What's wrong?" The Empress Dowager hurriedly asked. "Could it be that someone has wronged my granddaughter-in-law?" "That's right, she's really been wronged." Prince Mo hurriedly said, "Grandmother, you must support your granddaughter-in-law." "Of course." The Empress Dowager hurriedly nodded and said, "How can the child that my grandson likes not be good? Don't worry, if you have any grievances, just tell me. Grandma will take care of it for you." The great king bitterly made a sullen expression. "Ahem, mother, it's better not to spoil your child too much. How is that doting?" The Empress Dowager immediately retorted in annoyance. "This grandson of mine has never made me worry about him since he was young. He's such a good child, how am I doting? Tell grandmother. Grandmother will make the decision for you too." The Empress Dowager made the final decision. The great king's entire face turned a bit green. He hurriedly interrupted, "It's fine, it's fine. It's really fine. Mother, you must be tired from the journey and have just returned. Why don't you rest first?" "Why should I rest? The 12th prince has arrived." When Empress Zhao heard that her youngest son had arrived, her eyes immediately sharpened. "Greetings to grandmother, father, mother, eldest brother." That brat Mou's voice could be heard even before he arrived. Just hearing his voice made one feel especially energized. "You still know to come back," Empress Zhao muttered in annoyance. Chapter 985. The youth's black hair was buried under a small jade crown, and he was dressed in a light-colored, narrow-sleeved riding suit with a purple-gold belt. His figure was outstanding, and he was handsome and straight. When he walked quickly through the door, there was a faint smile on his lips, and his eyes seemed to be sparkling and dazzling, as if there were stars flowing in them. "Greetings to the 12th prince." The row of palace maids by the door bowed in greeting. Mou waved his hand and swayed to Emolien's side, happily shouting, "Eldest brother, the moment I entered the capital, I heard that you had engaged the crown princess. I want to see my sister-in-law. I know it's her. My peaches are finally going to be settled." This brat had been thinking about a peach for 7 to 8 years. There was no one else like him. Emolien's mouth twitched. Without waiting for him to speak, Empress Zhao said with a straight face, You're really becoming more and more unbecoming. Not to mention running around all day, you even went to the mountain villa to disturb your grandmother's peace." Mou hurriedly smiled and moved to his mother's side. "Mother, grandmother has been praising me the whole way. If I didn't run to the mountain villa to celebrate the new year with grandmother's new year would have been so boring." Empress Zhao glanced at him and snorted. She raised a finger and poked his head. Didn't grandmother find you noisy, so she brought you back early? Of course not. Mou's mouth seemed to be smeared with honey as he grinned. This son missed father, mother, and eldest brother, so I begged grandmother to come back. Imperial mother, imperial father, eldest brother, although you isn't in the capital, my heart has always missed you. His father chuckled, clearly not believing his youngest son's nonsense. Empress Zhao was a little happy from her son's coaxing, but she still kept a straight face. She glanced at her youngest son, but the corners of her mouth couldn't help but curl up slightly. The old Empress Dowager said with a smile, "You don't say, if you didn't run to the mountain villa to accompany me, this New Year's celebration would indeed be lacking." Empress Zhao said with a smile, "Imperial Mother's complexion is rosy and her breath is soft. You must be recuperating well in Zu Mountain Villa." "Not bad." The Empress Dowager smiled benevolently and nodded. Zu Villa is secluded from the world. Its profound energy is also rather dense. It's truly the best place for cultivation. If there is a chance, Your Majesty and Her Majesty can also choose a day to go there and take a break for a period of time. The Empress Dowager is right. The old Great King looked at his mother cautiously and asked, "Mother, have you made some progress in your cultivation?" "You can say that I've made some small achievements." Back then, the Empress Dowager had taken up a spear and mounted a horse to conquer the world with the former king and the old vassal king of Nan, so her martial arts were naturally outstanding. She had stayed at the initial success stage of level 14 Great Mystic Cultivator for nearly 10 years. After cultivating in seclusion at Yushio Villa for half a year, the Queen Dowager finally made a small step forward and entered level 14 Phenomenal Success stage. The Great King's face lit up with joy when he heard this. "Congratulations, Mother. Your cultivation has improved again." "Congratulations, Empress Dowager." At the Empress Dowager's level of cultivation, she had long been indifferent to these things. She smiled and waved her hand. "Let's not talk about these things." She turned to look at Emolien. "Today, as soon as Ijia and you entered the capital, Ijia heard rumors spreading from all directions. Nimpin Tower is our Mo Kingdom's guardian pagoda. What do they mean by a sorcerer has appeared recently, so the world is bound to suffer a calamity? They even said that Nimpin Tower's foundation is unstable and seems to be swaying? What kind of nonsense is this? It's simply a bunch of nonsense. Chapter 986. Grandmother, don't worry. These are just rumors spread by some bored people. Grandson will deal with it properly. Yes, yes. Mother, don't worry. The old king added, "This is all because a few days ago, there was a rat infestation near the Pacification Pagoda. A large rat gnawed on a brick behind the Pacification Pagoda, causing people to mistakenly say that the pagoda's foundation was unstable or that a demon had appeared." A faint light of wisdom flashed through the Empress Dowager's eyes. Why would there be a rat infestation in the capital out of the blue? I'm afraid that someone is secretly manipulating things behind the scenes. Great King, you have to pay attention to this matter. Don't throw everything to the Crown Prince. Look at how busy my grandson is. The Great King coughed a little awkwardly and secretly ridiculed in his heart. He knew it. As long as his mother returned, she would definitely protect him to the end. There was nothing to say about this. He felt like a son that was picked up from the streets. When he was young, the Empress Dowager helped him take care of state affairs. Now that he was old and his son was very capable, the Great King was very used to being a hands-off boss. Now that he heard the Empress Dowager specifically asking him to deal with the rat infestation rumors, the Great King felt very vexed and secretly glanced at his son. Prince Mo's handsome face was extremely serious. He didn't even look at his old father. This unfilial son who cheated his father. The Great King gritted his teeth. "Cough, Mother, you're worrying too much. The Crown Prince has more or less taken care of this small matter. You don't have to worry about this. Let the young people train." The Great King hurriedly helped his mother up with a guilty conscience and helped her into the inner room. He flattered her all the way and completely ignored the Empress Dowager's rolling eyes. Father is so cowardly. Mou pursed her lips. Suddenly, her large eyes lit up slightly. She jumped in front of Emolien and said, "Big brother, take me to see sister-in-law now." "You child, you're always so careless. Your big brother doesn't have as much free time as you do. Stop messing around." Empress Zhao reprimanded Mou. As soon as Emolien thought that his wife had run away, he felt a little irritated. He got up and excused himself from Empress Zhao. Then he went out and left. "Big brother, what's wrong?" Mou blinked and asked subconsciously. Empress Zhao waved at him. "Mother," Mou jumped in front of Empress Zhao with a big smile, and her head fell into her mother's arms. Empress Zhao's anger, which had accumulated over the past few days, was instantly extinguished by her youngest son's tantrum. She poked his head and said, "Fortunately, you still have your mother in your heart. Otherwise, who knows when you will return to the palace?" Of course not. No matter where her son went, he would always think of her. "I even brought a lot of local specialties for her. I'll get someone to send them to her in a while." Empress Zhao was amused by her son. She pulled his hand and asked, "From your tone just now, you called her sister-in-law quite warmly. You've known that Miss Chiao for a long time?" "I've never met her, but I've heard of her," Mou said unhappily at the mention of this. "When I was 5, sister-in-law gave Big Brother a peach. Big Brother treasured it so much. He couldn't bear to give it to you, That peach looked really delicious." Empress Zhao was dumbfounded. "What peach?" Her youngest son had been thinking about it since he was 5. "Mother, you've met my sister-in-law, right? What does she look like?" "She does look pretty good." Empress Zhao nodded affirmatively. It was just that her personality was cold and arrogant, cruel and heartless. She really wasn't much of a person. Chapter 987. The little girl whom Empress Zhao had called a good-for-nothing was currently in the land of inheritance opened by the startled swan dagger, studying the elixir inheritance left behind by her master, Long Chuyun. There were a large number of spirit stones and an inheritance jade slip in the space ring. After the inheritance jade slip was absorbed into Auber's conscious, it passed on the inheritance carved on the jade slip to her, just like the golden talisman jade tome. For the past 2 days, Auber had been quietly studying the elixir refinement techniques left behind by her master in the land of inheritance. The knowledge about elixirs that Long Chuyun had sorted out was very systematic and comprehensive, starting from the basics to the basics and easy to understand. Chochio had said that she had memorized countless medical classics and the holy scroll of 10,000 poisons, but many of the knowledge points were not connected with the elixir prescriptions and medicine here. For example, the name of the medicinal herbs. She remembered one name in her mind, but in reality, it could be called by another name here. In this way, it was a little confusing. Previously, she was not too sure, but now that she thought about it, the reason why she had such a complex and terrifying foundation in medicine was probably because she had learned from her master when she was in soul form. She had probably learned a lot when she was in soul form. The golden talisman jade tome might also have something to do with it. Now that she had inherited Master Long Chuyun's elixir inheritance, she could compare the two and make a judgment if she had any questions. It would be convenient for her to cultivate medicinal herbs and make elixirs in the future. Although she could make an accurate judgment based on the characteristics, shape, size and so on of the medicinal herbs, the names of the herbs here were different. After all, the names of the medicinal herbs here were different from what she had learned in the past. It was indeed a little troublesome to apply them. After Auber had carefully sorted out Long Chuyun's inheritance and compared 80 to 90% of it, she put it aside for the time being. She had promised Emolien that she would return within 3 days. If she returned late, that person would probably be anxious. She went to the elixir room on the left and looked at the rows of elixir bottles on the shelves. She casually opened a bottle and sniffed it. 100 Treasures Elixir. Auber's expression changed slightly. This was a type of elixir that could regulate the body's qi and blood. It was hard to get even with money. Ordinary people could extend their lives if they took it. Life-prolonging elixir. Level 12 Mystic Breakthrough Pill. Arbor muttered to himself as he tidied up the small medicine bottles on the shelf. His intuition told him that this Master Long Chuyun was definitely a nouveau riche. The little monk followed beside her and asked cutely, "Benefactress, are we going to leave after you're done packing up?" "Yes." "If we don't leave, are we going to stay here forever?" Arbor put all the bottles into the interspatial ring that his teacher had given him, and touched the white ring on his finger. "But that old Taoist priest is eyeing you like a tiger watching its prey," the little monk said with a worried expression. "Benefactress, you make people worry too much." Arbor couldn't help but twitch his mouth. He raised his hand and patted little Baldy's head. "You look so old. You're only 4, not 40. After the new year, he's already 5 years old." The little monk immediately corrected her. His face was filled with a solemn expression that said, "I'm no longer a child." Arbor found it funny. After tidying up the elixirs here, she pulled his little hand and walked towards the thatched hut on the right. Pushing open the door of the thatched hut on the right, a burst of medicinal fragrance wafted out. Arbor stood at the door and looked at the large herb garden in front of her. Chapter 988. She took a step back and exited the door to take a look. It was a shabby straw hut. After walking through the door, it was as if she had entered a strange herb garden. Patches of spirit herbs and exotic flowers were in full bloom. This time, Arbor was in a bit of a dilemma. This herb garden was at least 20 mu of land. With her strength alone, how long would it take for her to finish digging up all these spirit flowers and herbs? And the problem was, where should she store them? Some of these herbs had been removed from the soil and could not be stored for long. They would wither after a while. If that was really the case, then wouldn't it be a waste of effort for her to dig them out with no place to store them? If only the little tree was awake. At this moment, Chiao Mu missed Chochio from the bottom of her heart. It was a pity that Chochio was still in seclusion and did not move at all. Arbor heaved a long sigh of relief and sat down cross-legged, attempting to refine the mystic energy in this mystic realm. Since she was going to leave, then she should not waste the mystic energy here. She wondered if she could refine this mystic realm without relying on Chochio. If only she could refine it successfully like she did in the paradise. These herbs could be temporarily kept here. When Chochio woke up, she could transplant them into the herb garden in the paradise. With this thought, Arbor had already sealed off her 5 senses and silently entered the state of refining mystic energy. The little monk and Qing Wan squatted on her left and right and watched her. "Big brother Qing Wan, benefactress can't be thinking of directly refining this mystic realm of inheritance, right?" Qing Wan glanced at him and could not help but raise her brows slightly. "Little monk, you know quite a lot." Of course, this little monk can be considered someone who is familiar with thousands of sutras. "I also know a little about various famous people and anecdotes in the pugilistic world," the little monk said calmly. Qing Wan instantly did not want to talk to him anymore. This child was not cute at all. She felt that he was so intelligent that he could surpass an adult. He was simply too precocious. But the little monk could not stay idle. "Big brother Qing Wan, do you think benefactress will succeed?" "Of course. You have so much confidence in her? She's master." "Of course, I have full confidence in her." Qing Wan glanced at him angrily, retracted her gaze, and silently guarded Arbor. "What about the old Taoist outside?" The little monk frowned and said, "I can guarantee that he is still outside waiting for us to walk right into his trap." Qing Wan was silent. The little monk cutely said, "I've heard Master talk about it before. If you crush a refined secret realm, even a spirit realm great spirit master might not be able to deal with the energy generated. That old Taoist's cultivation is probably suppressed to around the 15th level of profound strength. He definitely won't be able to withstand the explosion of the secret realm." Qing Wan stared dumbfoundedly at the cute little monk with red lips and white teeth. Aren't you supposed to be a benevolent monk? What are you talking about now? Are you instigating murder? Why was he able to understand them when they were separated, but when they were pieced together, he couldn't understand anything? The little monk was still as calm as before. He blinked and looked at Qing Wan. Why do you look so surprised? He was just stating the truth. With just the three of them, it would be difficult enough to deal with the old Taoist alone. Unfortunately, the old Taoist had an eagle-faced ferocious beast by his side. As he spoke, the entire secret realm of inheritance trembled slightly. The little monk suddenly stood up. Qing Wan also jumped up. It's going to collapse. Chapter 989. This land of inheritance was not even 1/10 the size of the previous land of Peach Blossom, so the mystic energy it contained was naturally incomparable to that of the land of Peach Blossom. Auber opened her inner vision and could see the endless mystic energy from all directions pouring into her Dantian star field, where it was ultimately all absorbed by the sapling. Auber's heart jolted. Perhaps, even if the sapling had entered a deep sleep, it could still instinctively absorb the mystic energy from the outside world and refine the secret realm. As expected, as time went by, 80 to 90% of the mystic energy in the entire land of inheritance fell into the sapling's stomach. In the midst of the tremors, the land of inheritance collapsed bit by bit. Having experienced the refinement of the land of Peach Blossom and the collapse of the secret realm, Auber was not worried at all. After opening her eyes, she grabbed the little monk with one hand, and the three figures instantly disappeared into the slowly collapsing secret realm. A lustrous white bead appeared in Xiao Mu's hand. Inside the bead was a small bamboo forest, and three small thatched cottages could be faintly seen swaying back and forth inside. At this moment, Auber had no time to be excited or agitated. She first put away the heart of the land of inheritance in her hand and directly put it into her inner world. At the same time, she took out a startled swan dagger. With a turn of the dagger, she directly swiped it in a direction in the air. The old Taoist's outer robe was cut open by Auber's sharp dagger, and he glared at her with sharp eyes. Without another word, Qing Wan immediately spread its wings and swiftly picked up its little master, flinging her and the little monk onto its back. With a shriek, it rushed into the heavens and swiftly fled the scene. The old Taoist simply did not expect that this little fellow Auber would actually escape on Qing Wan without another word. He was so angry that his nose was crooked. He had circled around this mountain forest for nearly 3 days. In the end, he did not dare to go too far from this place, so he had been waiting at the secret realm where the three of them had disappeared. In the end, he had indeed waited for them to come out. But he did not expect that the three of them would be so wretched. They actually fled without a word the moment they came out. Was this something a great talisman practitioner and great mystic cultivator could do? It was simply outrageous. The old Taoist aggressively stepped on his eagle-faced ferocious beast and commanded it to give chase. Damn Auber, let's see where you can escape to. A fierce glint flashed through the old Taoist's eyes as he berated the eagle-faced ferocious beast to chase the three people in front. Both his hands slightly raised, accumulating mystic energy in his body. His entire body began to swell up like a bloated ball. His entire body was filled with terrifying power. His green Taoist robe fluttered in the fierce wind. Standing on Qing Wan's back, Xiao Mu naturally saw the old Taoist's menacing pursuit. She unhurriedly opened up an eggshell defensive barrier and coldly looked back at the stinky Taoist who was chasing after her. Waves of ferocious profound energy rose from his entire body as tiny streams of water flowed out from his palms. Subsequently, they condensed into strings of sparkling ice crystals. In an instant, the ice crystals turned into hexagonal snowflakes, which she abruptly raised her hand and swiftly charged toward the old Taoist. The old Taoist saw that she was very cowardly and ran away the moment she left the secret realm, so he thought that she did not dare to fight him. Who would have expected that she would actually attack? Looking at the ferocious snowflakes flying toward him with a whoosh, they directly hit his green Taoist robe. Ha! The old Taoist roared. Chapter 990. The muscles under his outer robe bulged, and this old Taoist instantly circulated his level 15 cultivation, releasing his mystic energy outward. It collided with a handful of snowflakes that Arbor darted toward him. After several slashes, the old Taoist's eyes widened in disbelief as he stared at his outer robe that had been cut open. Even his arms under his outer robe were actually sliced open by the snowflakes, and blood flowed down. He was actually injured by a mere level 12 mystic cultivator in a single exchange? Arbor didn't say a word. Her combat habit was that she absolutely wouldn't waste words with you once she started fighting. Her fingers moved slightly as she guided several talismans, and more than a dozen high-level attack talismans flew toward the old Taoist's face as if they didn't cost anything. At the same time, under Arbor's command, Qingwan turned around and flew toward that eagle-faced beast. She spat out an icy wind and snow rain at the eagle-faced beast's head. On the side, the little monk silently formed several Buddhist seals. At this time, Qingwan and Arbor couldn't care less about him. One flew toward the eagle-faced beast to attack. The other instantly left Qingwan's back, activated the defensive barrier, and rushed to the old Taoist with several large strides in the air. The old Taoist was simply flabbergasted. Didn't this D***MN lass run away just now? He thought she was scared, but what was going on with her turning around and charging here without any regard for her life? How could she know that Arbor didn't want him to see her put away the heart of the inheritance secret realm and cause unnecessary trouble? That was why she wanted to leave this place and return to the capital as soon as she came out. Moreover, she had promised Mo Lien to return to the capital within 3 days. Now that 3 days had passed, if she still didn't return, she would definitely be nagged by her family non-stop. She couldn't be bothered with this D***MN old Taoist, but in the end, she saw that the old Taoist was following behind her like a fly that she couldn't shake off. Her anger rose as well. What? Could it be that she was afraid of this D***MN old Taoist? Let's fight then. Let's see who would have the last laugh. She really hadn't been afraid of anyone after being reborn for so long. Did he really think that she couldn't kill him? 7 or 8 years ago, he dared to challenge a group of heroes by himself. How could he be afraid of a mere Taoist now? What a joke. What the little monk said was both right and wrong. The combined cultivation of the three of them was indeed inferior to the old Taoist and the eagle-faced beast. But could it be that this was all she could bring out? Other than her cultivation, she also had all kinds of divine weapons and spiritual treasures. Her actual combat ability really couldn't be judged by her cultivation level. Arbor had already jumped in front of the old Taoist priest. Suddenly, he turned a black ring on his hand. They were very close, and the old Taoist priest saw her movements clearly. For some reason, his eyelids twitched. Hee. Arbor let out an almost cold and flat laugh. He suddenly raised his hand and opened the Imperial Thunder Barrier, trapping the old Taoist and the eagle-faced beast. The man and the beast were suddenly enveloped in a translucent light shield, and their expressions were somewhat dumbfounded for a moment. Spirit weapon! The little monk cheered, and his cute voice hurriedly said, "Benefactress, since you have a spirit weapon in hand, why didn't you take it out earlier?" Master was too lazy to pay attention to him in the first place. Qingwan snorted and said, "It was he who insisted on coming to court death." The old Taoist priest and the eagle-faced beast, who were being bombarded by bolts of lightning in the Imperial Thunder Barrier, roared angrily. The old Taoist priest's eyes were extremely vicious. He glared at Arbor through the translucent barrier. "You think you've won? That you're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.